Hello and welcome to another AutoTalk webinar. I am Managing Editor Richard Edwards, and joining me today is the General Manager of OnlyCars New Zealand, Todd Fuller. Thanks for joining us, Todd.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
All right. Now, while this is a webinar, it's sort of live. Okay, we are, if you're watching this at the scheduled time, in the comment section, ready to answer your questions if you have them. If not, still feel free to drop a question down there. We'll monitor that later on, and we can always add answers at a later date. Otherwise, we'll have some contact details later where you can get in touch with either AutoTalk or the OnlyCars team if you have more questions. Now, for those who don't know you, you're not exactly new to the industry, you're new to OnlyCars, but can you just give us a little bit of background as to who Todd Fuller is and what you're doing here?
Yeah, so it was 1987 when I left school and went to the New Zealand Herald into the motoring department. Cut the long story short, I was there at NZME for 30 years and obviously rose to the head of automotive. So I ran automotive for all the radio stations, all the print publications, and obviously the digital formats. And then from there, I went and started my own automotive ad agency. I did that for 5 years and recently sold in December. So you could say I've been doing automotive marketing for 35 years now.
Fantastic. So yeah, definitely been around a while. You've shared a beer and a chat with plenty of people around.
Are you saying I'm an old man?
Not at all. Not at all. You grew up next to my wife, so there's sometimes we can't ever imply that. So kind of no matter how you do, it's an interesting time to launch a vehicle listings platform, which is what OnlyCars is. I mean, what's the complexities of what's going on at the moment? Obviously, there's been some things about price rises around the place, that kind of stuff. But is that the only reason why you're here now? I mean,
when I sold my business in December, I was out and about with the industry, lunches and dinners, just asking people what I should do next. And the common theme that just kept coming through again and again and again was there needs to be some competition in the listing space. Obviously, I had started Driven back when I was at NZME. That was my sort of baby. So I've had some experience with that. And then I started looking around at the different options that were there. And I believe that the OnlyCars platform was the one that I thought had the best chance of success, based around the, basically, having the shares, having the whole industry be part of it, having the industry own part of the site, having the industry help run the site. That was kind of the part that made me go, this is probably the best chance of success in the listing space. And as we all know, there needs to be competition in that space.
Can you tell us a little bit about the history of OnlyCars as the new brand in New Zealand?
Yeah, I've been talking to founder Michael Rogic for probably a couple of years. They came over a couple of years ago and were talking about coming to New Zealand. I really like that.
It's been in Australia for
about 3 years now. And it's not just OnlyCars. They've got Only Trucks, Only Trailers, Only Vans, and a couple of those like trucks and vans have now become number 2 in the market in a very short space of time. The model works. So that was kind of why I've gone in with those guys and gone, hey, like let's take this to the New Zealand market.
And what can we expect from the site? I mean, what's special or different about the OnlyCars site that perhaps we haven't seen before?
Yeah, I think the site is in its infancy, and it's a basic listing site at the moment, with the ability to go much further than where some of these other sites are at, and purely based on the agility that we can have. Sometimes some of these other places are a little bit large and take a little bit longer to make these kind of changes. Well, we've got to have the ability to really expand. We've been looking at a lot of sort of AI, and yes, AI is expensive at the moment, but there is so much we can do in the listing space. It's about trying to give the New Zealand consumer a better experience when they come onto OnlyCars.
So it's predominantly a listing site. You jump on there, listings for vehicles, perhaps other site information, finance, insurance, all those kind of things.
Everything you'd expect to see on the listing site. But one of the things that we're going to be promoting a lot is that we're car experts, and that we're going to be fully down that. The experts in cars that's sort of the part that we need to get out to the public, where we're trustworthy, that we're experts in cars, and that we're not selling couches and fridges and that type of stuff.
Yeah. Where are you at with the development process in New Zealand at the moment? Because I know this isn't just a cut and paste the Australian website. You are developing a little bit differently.
Yeah, I think we've got some really big things that we're changing for the New Zealand site. And I think in time, Australia will probably start to follow some of the leads that we're doing with some of the expertise that we've got in the listing space. We contacted Eka and talked to them about doing a site audit of us before we launched, and they came back to me and said, well, you're the first person that's ever asked for an audit before we launched. But and it's not just about that, it's about being part of the automotive community. So not only we're working with them, but we want to work with the MTA, we want to work with the AA, we want to work with the MIA, the VIA. I did years in driven, making sure that you're part of the automotive community. And I don't feel like the other listing platforms have been involved with the community that they should be. And that's something that we really want to do with OnlyCars, is basically make sure that we are actually part of the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, the system, how will it run in regards to the normal dealer flow of business? I mean, are you guys working on DMS connections, all that kind of stuff? I mean, how much hassle is going to be involved for dealers to list?
No, so one of the first things we did was I worked with Autoplay, even though it was under Craig Brown. I've worked, and now with Matt Darby, I've worked with Autoplay for a long time. I've worked with Motor Central for a long time in my past jobs. So we're fully integrated with those two main players. And obviously we're out now dealing with some of the other players that are in the market. But yeah, it's a seamless transition. If they're with Autoplay or Motor Central, it's basically sign a DMS form and we do the rest.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the important question, because we are at a point where listing costs have been a really big topic in the market. I mean, how much are you guys going to be charging? You cover it, Frank. I'm sure it's not one size fits all, but I mean, what's your kind of pricing scheme like?
Yeah, look, the smallest sort of dealership, sort of under 50 cars, is about $250 a week, right up to unlimited listings for sort of $2,000 a week for some of those larger groups. We did a lot of work with the industry around pricing. The basics of what we've been saying to people is if they were spending $10,000 with a month and with another provider, hey, how about you spend $8,000 with them and spend $2,000 with us, and give us time to grow so we can start to cut into that market.
What's the buy-in been like so far? I mean, are you expecting to launch with a fairly sizable bank of listings?
Yeah, look, we've had, especially I suppose with my 35 years experience, we've definitely been out to most of the major groups in the country. We've got most of them signed up, not all of them, but most of them have come on board. So we're sitting in a very good space. Where we need to work on at the moment, currently sitting at this day, is just trying to make sure we get more of the independent market on board. And that's coming, it's coming thick and fast. Mm-hmm. So that some people say, is this the best time to launch because of what's been happening in the listing market? And others tell me it's the worst time to launch because obviously there's some tough times out there with the car dealers at the moment. So we've sort of taken that on board and making sure that we're listening to the dealers. A real key to everything we're doing is about listening to the dealers.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I've seen is unique, I guess, to the New Zealand market, though we've seen some really big successes from this over in Australia in the past, is that dealers who sign up get a share scheme essentially within OnlyCars. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so it's a advertising support model. So the basics of that, it just means, and it's about getting buy-in from the whole industry. It means from the small guy to the big guy, everybody has shares in the business. And people always ask me, well, how does that kind of work? So if you're spending $250 a week, then you get 250 shares, and that just continues to grow. So that would be at the end of the year, there'd be 13,000 shares. At the end of year 2, it'd be 26,000 shares. We have no lock-in contracts. It's basically the ability to come and go if they choose to, but the shares will always stay there. So it's a share equity for support model, and the basics of that means that everybody in the car industry will own it. And if we're as successful as we hope to be over a 5 to 7 year period, then everybody in the car industry will have quite a sizable asset sitting on their books.
Yeah. For those who look much at the Australian market, know a lot of dealers made a very good chunk of money out of the listing of one particular listing site in Australia a number of years ago. Now, when those days are still possible is one thing, but it's certainly something that's still talked about over there.
A lot of people over there made more money off their shares in that site than they made off their actual dealership. So, look, if we're as successful as we hope to be like that, then they should be some really good stories.
Yes.
But it's more about, Richard, it's more about us as an automotive community doing this together. Like, everybody in the industry talks about needing to have another platform. This is about actually saying, hey guys, come on the journey. As we say to a lot of people, join the movement.
Because this is an automotive industry project, doesn't it? I mean, your foundation shareholding is a vehicle financier, essentially.
Yes, it was. And one of the biggest things that we discussed before launching this was that the finance is very, very important to the dealerships. So we talked a lot before we started in the New Zealand market and said, right, we will put a finance freedom guarantee on all of their listings. So any dealership that comes on board, their listings will only have their finance on there. And it's a really critical part. Yes, we will have obviously the ability to have Kiwi car loans across the privates, but we are guaranteeing every dealership that their listings will not have anybody else's finance like some of the other providers do.
So you will have private listings because it's important to get the more cars, the more eyeballing, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I've done a lot of experience in this. When we started with Driven, we put cars on there for free and hardly anybody came, maybe 60-something people. Then we put it on for $30 and all of a sudden we had a few hundred come on board. But I've spent some time with Car Sales, with Car Guide, with Auto Trader UK, and talking to all of those guys. They all say the same thing, is you've got to get the people using your site first. So we need to drive thousands of eyeballs to the site. And once they start to use that, they view, they do watch lists, they inquire, only then will they start to put their private listings on there. So it's about getting the site up and running. The privates will be a long tail. But we've got to get the dealers on board first and then get the public there.
Yeah. Now, you can have all the listings you want, but if you don't have the eyeballs, what's the point?
Correct.
How are you going to get people to come to the site? Because I think that's one of the big discussions out there around new listing sites is that the listings are almost the easy bit. It's getting people consistently on the site that's difficult. I mean, what's your guys' plan around that, around promotion and around...
Yeah. Look, the stuff that we're doing is next level. And I think people that have had the presentations with us, one of the biggest feedbacks we've had is that the marketing plan is probably one of the best people have seen. And that comes from all the experience that I had in media, but then also doing 5 years as a digital automotive agency. And we've just been able to use all of that technology to be able to make sure that we can do it. It's a great story about when I've worked with a couple of these great agencies that we've signed up with. All of them were saying that we need to be more 60-40 in the context of brand awareness versus in-market buyers. But we've kind of flipped that a little bit on its head. It's a sort of more of a 30-70 split. And the reason being is when I go out to the car industry, and I have done this for a long time, the only currency is how much did I get and how much did the leads cost. The industry don't care about how many unique visitors we had and how many million page impressions we had. The currency that the New Zealand market uses is how many leads did I get and at what cost. So with the technology that we're using, we're spending a lot of our money on in-market car buyers. And that's the key to why we'll be successful. That is the single one key that we have to do to make sure that these guys are getting leads from the day that they start.
So you're not necessarily targeting having 1 million people come to your site every day. You're targeting having a subset of that are car buyers that are ready to buy a car. Not accidentally looking at a couch and going over to buy a car.
Correct. And what we need to be doing, and that is targeting people in that 6-week window. We are going to spend a truckload of money targeting people in that 6-week window. So most of the money that we will be spending is getting that in-market buyer and getting them at the right time in the right place. We were very good at that at my last business, and we've just been able to take that technology and put it across this business here.
Now, if people do, when you talked about your presentation, I mean, if people do want to get that in-depth presentation that look with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Yeah, best way to get in touch is through hello@onlycars.co.nz. Or just go onto the website. There's just a submission form there. We are literally in that phase now where we're just seeing dealers every day and just getting more and more on board. But I think the whole point of this is actually getting in front of people and being able to sit down with them and take them through the journey. I think once we're getting in front of people, I think we're sitting at some kind of crazy 90% hit rate. But I think people need to see it, feel it, smell it, kind of thing, and that's what we're doing at the moment. So we are going to be looking at doing some road shows where we will, we'll get a local pub and go to a local area, say Tauranga, and get all the dealers together. That's a really good way to get everybody involved, and then we spend the rest of the week there going and seeing people.
So as we mentioned, this is owned, or the starting point ownership is within the automotive industry. But you are taking dealer guidance in this as well. Can you explain how you're taking the feedback of dealers on board?
Yeah, there's two parts to that. I like to sort of say the elevator pitch, right? Which is it's owned by dealers, but run by dealers. But when I say run by dealers, what we're doing is we're putting an advisory board together that is actually all dealers. And we will literally be able to come to that meeting and go, hey guys, this is what we're thinking for the next 20 things that we're going to be doing on the site. And then the industry can say, hey, don't do number 6, move number 11 to the top. It's about making sure that it's not just owned by the dealers, but we've got their full involvement. And the advisory board will be from, a top franchise CEO right down to an independent, having people from the regions, and being able to have a forum that people can give us their feedback. And we take that feedback from all of the dealers in the country. We take that feedback into the advisory board in a summary, and then we go through that. So make sure that we're doing the right thing. I feel like one of the biggest things about this is that it's owned by the dealers and run by the dealers, and having that advisory board will really set us on a good stead.
Now, for those of you watching this on LinkedIn, I'll go and put Todd's details in the top comment, pin that at the top of this post, and also you can probably go out and like and reach out to him on LinkedIn as well via that too. Right. Thank you so much for joining us, Todd. Great little webinar there. And don't forget to stay subscribed to all our various things or wherever you're watching this for more great automotive content.